Good evening, America, and welcome to the Boomerang Tuesday edition of Just the News No Noise. I'm going to explain that in a second, but first, let's get rid of the formalities. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you, as always, from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., where just a little while ago, the House and the Senate, in rapid fashion, voted to order the Justice Department and the United States government to release all remaining files from the Jeffrey Epstein sex scandal. It passed nearly unanimously in the House, 427-1. The lone Republican was Congressman Clay Higgins from Louisiana, who voted against it. But on the other side, the Senate quickly passed it as a unanimous consent, and now it's headed to President Trump's desk where it will be signed. And this will be the moment that Democrats will realize they should have checked what was in the files before they argued that they wanted them released. They were looking for that holy Hail Mary against Donald Trump. They didn't find it. But what Republicans are likely to find is that Democrats were shaking down Jeffrey Epstein for money even after he was a convicted sex offender, that they had lots of their top echelons, people like the Treasury Secretary under Bill Clinton, Bill Clinton himself, Hillary Clinton, in Epstein's presence and looking to consort with him at all the times over a 2-decade era, maybe 3 decades, actually, when you look at the timeline. And when that's all said and done, the Republicans will have the upper hand to educate the American public about who really was in Jeffrey Epstein's back pocket. We're going to have all of that throughout the show. In fact, joining us at the top of the show, the man who's going to lead that investigation, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comey, the man who turned the Hunter Biden investigation around on Democrats. Now they'll be doing the same on Jeffrey Epstein. I want to get to a couple other pieces of news right now. Just a little while ago, we've learned some new things about FBI Director James Comey's case. We're learning from court documents that our good colleague Jerry Dunleavy looked at, that they're going to argue that one part of James Comey's obstruction of Congress was denying or claiming he had no idea about a Hillary Clinton intercept in which he approved a plan to hang a fake Russian shingle on Donald Trump's campaign house. Yep, back in 2016. Remember, the government intercepted that. Comey always said, I don't know if that rings a bell with me. I'm not sure that happened. Well, his own notes show he knew about it. He actually wrote it in his notes. The government is going to argue, if it gets to trial, that James Comey was obstructing Congress by feigning knowledge of that incredible development. That's a big one that we're keeping a close eye. And then down in Texas, an important development today. The governor of Texas has done what the government here in Washington hasn't done yet, declared that the Muslim Brotherhood and the Muslim civil rights group CAIR, C-A-I-R, are both considered to be foreign terrorist organizations under Texas law. That happened a little while ago. Governor Abbott of Texas taking that strike against those two long-term organizations that a lot of people have had a concern about, going all the way back to 9/11. All right, with that, I'm going to turn to my amazing co-host, Amanda Head, who has some other headlines, I think one of them in Texas as well.
Yes, indeed, John. Let's start down there in the Lone Star State. A federal court today has blocked that state's new congressional map, ruling 2-1 that Texas Republicans must use the congressional map that they had in place before they redistricted earlier this year. Now, the new map that was blocked would have given Republicans up to 5 U.S. House seats to pick up for 2026, the all-important midterm elections. But District Judge Jeffrey Brown, a Trump appointee, wrote for the majority, stating the public perception of this case is that it's about politics. To be sure, politics played a role in drawing the 2025 map, but it was much more than just politics. Substantial evidence shows that Texas racially gerrymandered the 2025 map. But what about California and all of these other states that are looking at redistricting efforts? I don't think that the courts are done weighing in on any of this. We're going to be hearing about it for at least the next year or so. And turning now to the Epstein files vote, House Oversight Chairman James Comey dropped a bombshell while speaking on the House floor, revealing this interesting detail about Democrats and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Here's the clip.
Another email shows Democrat fundraisers invited Epstein to an event or to meet privately with Hakeem Jeffries as part of their 2013 effort to win a majority. So Hakeem Jeffries' campaign solicited money from Jeffrey Epstein.
So they were excited to have his money bags around, but now they don't want to have anything to do with the guy. John, interesting stuff happening over in House Oversight.
I can't wait to watch the next few months when we find out what really was going on in the Epstein world. And it was not a Republican scandal. Listen, there'll be people from all different stripes involved, but sure. It's going to be pretty amazing. And we're pretty lucky at the top of the show today to be joined by the chairman who just gave that speech on the floor. He's the man that will oversee this as well as so many other important oversight investigations, the chairman of that committee, James Comey. Mr. Chairman, great to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So one of the great dirty secrets is that the Epstein was a bank for the Democrats. The Epstein machinery was a bank for Democrats for a long time, and they kept soliciting him even after he was a sex offender convicted in Florida. Tell us what you know and what you expect to find out with the new subpoenas you dropped on banks today.
Well, just so you know the overall current events of this investigation, over 2 months ago, I met with many of the victims who are up in the gallery today during this discharge petition vote. They were pleading and begging for us to subpoena the estate. I did that. I subpoenaed the estate as chairman of the House Oversight Committee. We've gotten every document in. There was nothing in those documents about Donald Trump that implicated him in any wrongdoing. There was nothing, no new information whatsoever about Donald Trump. But what was in the documents was two sitting members of Congress, both Democrats, that were one was soliciting money from Epstein after he'd been convicted of being a sex offender, and that was Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader who's been on TV nonstop demanding more transparency on the Epstein investigation. And then the other was Stacey Plaskett, the Democrat from the Virgin Islands, who was texting with Jeffrey Epstein during an Oversight Committee hearing where I was sitting 2 chairs down from her, didn't know who she was texting with. And she was texting with Epstein. They were colluding, trying to embarrass and hurt Donald Trump. So the evidence, the new evidence that came out from the estate was that Democrats were working with Epstein, that media journalists were working with Epstein, all for one purpose, to try to embarrass Donald Trump. And we also learned that Hakeem Jeffries, the main Democrat in the House now, the new Nancy Pelosi, that he was actually soliciting Epstein for money. So nothing bad about Trump, only bad stuff about the Democrats. We'll see where this investigation goes, but we've been subpoenaing documents and turning everything over to the American people, and hopefully we'll continue to do that.
Yeah. I mean, Mr. Chairman, this seems like a really stupid gamble. It's like a political and twisted version of storage wars. Democrats have been clamoring to buy this storage unit, but they have no idea what's in it. Do you anticipate that, and as Sean said, could be folks on both sides of the aisle who are very, very nervous tonight, but how long will it take, now that it's passed, how long will it take for everything to get dumped on the American people?
Well, I've subpoenaed the documents already. This discharge petition wasn't necessary. I subpoenaed Pam Bundy a month ago, and they've been cooperating with us. But what people have to understand, there are a lot of class action lawsuits taking place right now between law firms representing victims of Epstein Island. Then you have ongoing criminal investigation. The grand jury testimony, that has to be released by a judge. In fact, the Trump administration asked a judge to release some of the grand jury testimony, and the judge, who was an Obama appointee, denied it. So I think the Trump administration has been more cooperative than what they're getting credit for in the media. But now that this discharge petition's passed, which really didn't change anything at all, I think we're going to get all the information. Even some of it that's probably not supposed to be released because of ongoing investigations. I believe that everything will come out, and the Democrats have no idea what's in these documents. They didn't know what was in the estate. They're fishing, and they really want us not to comply so they can say we're covering up or we're hiding. So I have no idea what other information will come out. But if it's like what came out of the estate, it's not going to be good for the Democrats.
Yeah, they may have caught a whale that eats them. It'll be very interesting to see what happens on that fishing expedition. Mr. Chairman, there are 2 very important people that you subpoenaed early on, or excuse me, that you asked to voluntarily cooperate. They didn't schedule their interviews. Now there's a subpoena. But Bill and Hillary Clinton, if they continue to duck you, will you take them to court? Will you try to enforce a subpoena? Will you go the Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro route?
100%. We're going to go that route. We expect to hear from Bill and Hillary Clinton. Look, Donald Trump's answered questions for years about Jeffrey Epstein. Every day he gets asked questions about Epstein, and he answers them in front of the American people. We've subpoenaed Republicans and Democrats. 2 Republicans have come forward, Bill Barr and Alex Acosta. They did interviews and deposition, and those were tough. but they did them. They didn't back down. Other Democrats have sent letters that saying they knew nothing about Epstein, which would hold in court if something ever comes out that they did know something, then they've committed perjury there. But the Clintons have never responded. They're the one group in this investigation that's never had to answer questions in front of a credible reporter, and they've never certainly answered questions from attorneys or members of Congress. So we expect the Clintons to come in, or I expect the Clintons to be met with the same fate that Bannon and Navarro were met with when the Democrats were in control.
Well, and I'm curious because Democrats have been very, very vocal about these files being released. So does that mean that they would be supportive of making sure that the Clintons came forward to testify?
They don't want the Clintons to testify. They've not lifted a finger to help get the Clintons in. They were quick to demand Acosta testify and Bill Barr testify. They're always Trump, 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 but they don't say a word about Democrats. But I'll tell you this, they hate Trump so much, they would be willing to give up Bill Clinton and Barack Obama and Hakeem Jeffries if it meant having a scalp from Donald Trump. So look, the Democrats have Trump derangement syndrome. They're just hoping and praying that there's something in these documents somewhere. They don't know where, but somewhere that would implicate Trump. And what's sad about that is the Republicans on the Oversight Committee, and I think the Republicans in the House of Representatives, we want transparency. We're not hiding anything. We want every name released. We want every document made public. But at the end of the day, our goal is to get justice for the victims of Epstein and Maxwell, and to figure out who in the government's responsible for not apprehending Epstein and Maxwell sooner. But the Democrats' objective is onefold. They want to try to get Donald Trump. They don't know how. They don't know in what way. They just hope and pray that there's Hail Mary is caught in the end zone at the last second, and there's something in there pertaining to Donald Trump. And that's sad. And I hope the American people are seeing the hypocrisy of the Democrats throughout this whole Epstein thing. Because remember, they had 4 years under Joe Biden. They could have released the document any given day, and they never cared about that until there was some Twitter chatter that maybe Donald Trump was on the Epstein list.
Amazing. So I want to ask about the federal government. I think a lot of people look back. We wrote a whole series in 2021 on this about the failure to really prosecute him when they had the first evidence in 2007 and 8. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Miami does a non-prosecution agreement. Florida gives them sort of a light deal. Have you learned anything from the Acosta interviews that would explain why in 07 and 08 a more aggressive federal prosecution didn't occur?
Yeah, and let me be clear. I'm not defending Acosta. I think they dropped the ball. I think they had an opportunity and they missed it. So in no way am I defending Acosta. But I will repeat what he said, and it's in the transcript. He was asked by both Republicans and Democrats specific questions about why Epstein didn't get a more harsher sentence. And he said that they had, a couple dozen girls that they interviewed. A majority said that Epstein and Maxwell were horrible people, but there were several that testified that Epstein and Maxwell did nothing wrong and that the others were lying. And then Epstein had the best attorneys. He had the equivalent of an O.J. Simpson legal team. And he was concerned about whether or not they would win in court. And he thought that declaring Jeffrey Epstein a sex offender would be a victory, even though that he wasn't going to have to serve very much time in prison. So that was Acosta's excuse. I'm not defending that. I don't think that's a good excuse. I think that's a punt, but that's what he said. And there's probably lots of instances of prosecutors in both parties throughout history that were concerned as to whether or not they were going to win in court when there were witnesses testifying both ways, and the people they were prosecuting, or the person they were prosecuting, had the best legal team money could buy.
Yeah. Sir, before we let you go, I know obviously this is a huge issue for the American people, especially as far as transparency, but also making sure that the government shrinks during these 4 years that President Trump is in office. You guys have done a great job of collaborating with DOJ to look at inefficiency, waste, fraud, and abuse, all of that stuff. Moving forward, once we get beyond this Epstein saga, tell us about what your plans are.
Well, we've got to reduce the size of the federal government. There are too many agencies doing offering repetitive services. We saw during COVID when many of these agencies didn't see their workforce for years that the American taxpayer can survive just fine without them. To provide the salary and benefits for life for these federal employees that work in these agencies that are obsolete or over bloated with personnel. It's pretty disgusting. We're doing everything we can to work with this administration to get some type of reduction in force by proving agencies are obsolete or agencies have abused their power or agencies are over bloated. And we're going to continue to do that, and hopefully we can see some reduction in force. Look, there are government agencies that are doing great work that probably need more employees, but there are a whole lot of government agencies that we don't need. And they either need to be slashed significantly or eliminated altogether. And that's what our goal is from this point on, to try to work not only to identify waste, fraud, and abuse, but to do something about it. To do something about it would be to significantly reduce government spending and the size of the federal workforce.
The president today gave us a blueprint for getting rid of the education department, outsourcing it to other agencies. Do you think Congress will codify that?
I hope so. I think so. I mean, who's not for local decision making? The whole U.S. Department of Education is an unnecessary level of bureaucracy. But I want to say this: there are a lot of federal funds that flow to state departments of education and local departments of education. I want to see that federal money continue to flow. Many of your title programs in public education are federally funded. So you take a school system like the one where my kids go to school, federal funds account for about 20% of their overall budget. So we want the federal funds to keep flowing. We just want to eliminate the bureaucracy at the U.S. Department of Education and the poor decisions they make on everything from curriculum to staffing that, some fat cat bureaucrat in Washington's trying to tell some rural school district in Kentucky. That's not what we want. So get rid of the bureaucracy, get rid of all those unnecessary bureaucrats, but allow the federal funding to go straight to the state departments of education, and let's have local decision making.
I met a teacher who said for 42 days the education department was closed and all of our kids kept learning in our school district.
Absolutely.
It works fine without the bureaucrats.
Yep.
Yeah. Congressman, Mr. Chairman, great to have you on the show. Congratulations on another big day of oversight. Sure appreciate you having you on.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, folks, a quick commercial break. When we come back, North Carolina Congressman Pat Harrigan will be with us to discuss the ongoing immigration enforcement efforts in Charlotte. Over 140 people arrested in the first dragnet, making that city a lot safer. We'll have that next, right after these messages.